Russia, the country has threatened to ban citrus imports from Egypt after the North African country failed to approve Russian wheat exports. Now, several wheat cargoes suspected of containing trace levels of the ergot fungus have been held up at Russian ports. Egypt's state grain buyer had bought 540,000 tons of the grain from Russia in July, before then proceeding to tighten restrictions on phytosanitary standards. The sales were originally agreed to under a rule that allowed 0.05% ergot content. That's a fairly common international standard. It's used pretty much everywhere. Russia wants that standard to be upheld. Russian wheat export prices, in fact, actually fell last week, partly due to delayed supplies sending off to Egypt, and they are expected to remain under pressure until this dispute has been resolved. Let's get the latest details from Yasser Hakim. He joins us now live from Cairo. Yasser, good to see you. Has there been any formal communication from Russia on these alleged breaches of phytosanitary requirements, especially for citrus exports coming from Egypt and going into Russia?
Well, there's not been direct contact with Egyptian officials on this issue, but the statements coming out of Russia says that Russia is looking forward to a meeting very soon with the Egyptian officials to try to hammer out a deal concerning this issue. And they're waiting for the Egyptian officials to respond and sit and talk about this.
Indeed, but surely this does seem like a fairly simple matter at face value. I mean, if the new rules kicked in in July, the start of the 2016-2017 marketing year, by now surely the Egyptian authorities should have decided if the old rule applies to the imports bought before the rule change, shouldn't they?
Well, why has it changed? That's the question. That's why the government is insisting not to go back to the old rule. It's because a huge corruption scandal that took place early in the year concerning the import of wheat and grain not according to the standards. 0.05 can be tampered with easily, and they've discovered wheat in the market that's not according to the international standards and is harmful to the bodies and to the human beings and human consumption. And then there was the decision what to do, and the Prime Minister decided with the Minister of Imports and Supply is that we don't want any ergot in it. It has to be zero ergot to make it easier. They took the easy decision. We don't want to see any ergot in a wheat that is coming, so we don't have to play with 0.04, 0.06, 0.01, or whatever. So. And at this point, they decided not to go back to the old rule. And the problem now is, will they go back on that decision, or will they accept what's happened, the Russian pressure? You said that Russia is threatening to stop any imports of Egyptian agricultural products, and Russia is the second highest importer of Egyptian agricultural products, which Egypt needs to sell.
Indeed. Let's pick up on that then. Let's assume that Egypt maintains its stand. No wheat is allowed in even the trace levels of this fungus. Can the state be held legally liable for any losses incurred by private Egyptian wheat buyers?
I think this will be the game that everyone wants to avoid, going into the legal hackle of it and the hassle of the legalities while you've got the wheat thrown into the silos for months. Egypt hopes that this will be solved somehow, and at this point, yes, Egypt could be held responsible if it's proven that the shipment and the contracts were according to the old agreement or the old standards, and that Egypt did not inform Russia of the new rules before this shipment has been put on the ships and brought to Egypt. So it's when and how Russia knew about it, whether it knew about the new laws or not. It will be all details in the laws that each side will play with. But I think both sides want to avoid this situation.
Indeed, we'll leave it there for the time being. Thank you for that. That's Yasser Hakim live in Cairo. Of course, fairly belated, but still nonetheless pleasant Eid Mubarak to him over in Cairo.